Okay, Boker Tov. So we pick up today's daf Samach Tet 69. We're in the middle of Samach Chet Amud Bet, and we're in the middle of a obviously extremely important discussion because it is the last point of the Mishnah, which is that the child of a shifcha, of a slave woman, is a slave, and the Gemara learned that from the pasuk Hayishavi Eladeha Tiyela Adoneha, that even if you had a non-slave man had children with this slave woman, that the children are still slaves, and then that's not so okay for us. And then the halacha that the child of a non-Jewish woman and a Jewish man is not Jewish. The Gemara, the Mishnah does not explicitly say the reverse, that a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish man is Jewish. But anyway, this is the Gemara about matrilineal descent. And the Gemara says that we know that because the pasuk says, you know what, I'm just going to reread this. I know you did this yesterday, but I just need to reread this. So we're going to pick up from actually the top. It's very short. We'll pick up from the top of Samach Chet Amud Bet. The Gemara says like this: Nachris minalam, 2 lines from the top. How do you know by a non-Jewish woman that the child is Jewish? Is not Jewish? Amar Kra lo titchatin bam. Do not have Mary amongst them. And the context of the verse is the 7 Canaanite nations. So therefore, it's prohibited. We'll get later to how do you extend it beyond the 7 Canaanite nations. So that's how we know you're not allowed to marry. Fine. So Kiddushin doesn't take effect. And how do you know that the child is considered not Jewish? I'm Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Mishum Bar Yochai. So it says we're going to name of Rabbi Yochai. He will cause your son to stray from away from me. So, and from this we learn, bincha haba mi-Yisraeli kari bincha, your child from a Jewish woman is considered your child. And bincha haba mi-Avodas Kochavim kari bincha, but your child that you have with a non-Jewish woman is not considered your child, ela bina, rather her child. Now, how do you get that from the pasuk? Where did you see the pasuk said about whose child it is and whether it's yours or hers? So Rashi says there's an obvious problem with this pasuk because the pasuk says, "Bitchalos yitain livno v'no lo tikach levanecha." What's the pasuk? Bitchalos yitain livno b'to lo tikach levanecha. So don't give your daughter to their son, and don't take their daughters for your son. And then it says because he will turn your son away from me. So it should have either been because she, the non-Jewish woman, will turn your son away from me, or he, the non-Jewish man, will turn your daughter away from me. What does the verse mean? He will turn your son away from me. So what's it talking about? So Rashi says your son is not the one that has now married into the non-Jews. It's your grandson. Okay? So the pasuk is don't give your daughter to their sons, because he, your non-Jewish son-in-law, will turn your grandson away from me. So, all right, you got it? Now, that means, but it's still your son. It's still your grandson. So it must be that your daughter's son that she had with this non-Jewish man is still Jewish. And therefore, we're afraid that this non-Jewish husband, right, will now turn your grandson, who is your grandson and Jewish, away from me. People get that? Yes? So that's how we learned that out. That's what Rashi says. Okay, Tosfos, however, disagrees, and Tosfos says the following. Tosfos says, okay, so we have you, okay, and here are the non-Jews. So you need to get through. Okay, so Rashi says it's because he will take your daughter, okay, and then they'll have a child. So this would be son. So it says Yasir, he will turn Incha, your son, away from me. Okay? Because it's he will turn your son. So not he will turn your daughter away from me, he will turn your son. So you see that in this case of a Jewish mother, non-Jewish father, it's still your son that is now being taken away from
you. Worried about sons.
Okay?
Any kid.
I understand, but that's what the pasuk is teaching us. Okay? So that's how Rashi explains how we learn out that the son of a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish father is your son, and by the reverse, presumably, if it was your son and a non-Jewish mother, it would be her son, not your son. It would be not Jewish. That's how Rashi interprets the pasuk. Probably he will turn your son, not he will turn your daughter. Okay, Rabbeinu Tam says, if you're not confused, yes. Rabbeinu Tam says that he's bothered by this, that we're saying son here means whatever. Son means grandson that hasn't been mentioned. So Rabbeinu Tam says no. We're not talking about a child. We're not talking about any children that this little union will have. What we're talking about is the he means the father-in-law, the non-Jewish father-in-law. Okay, so he will turn your son away from me. Now, what does it mean? He's turning your son away from me. So if this is your son, okay, so it's the case where you're marrying the daughter. So he, right? It says don't have your sons marry their daughters because he, now the he is somebody else, is the father-in-law. You're saying right like it's pshat.
That's I always thought this way.
Okay, anyway. Pasuk isn't mentioning father-in-law either. Okay, anyway, so he will turn your son away from me. Now, what does that teach you about the nature of the progeny? Because what he's saying, what it means to turn your son away from me is that the kids are going to be not Jewish. So if the kids are like not Jewish, that means that basically, he's pulling the whole family sort of being pulled away from Judaism, right? So that's how he's he's learning out. That's how he reads the pasuk. Okay, I think Rashi's is actually a little bit simpler. Anyway, somehow because of the grammatical problem, he will turn your son away from me. We are saying that what that teaches us is that I'm going to read it Rashi's way, that the child of that union, your grandson, is still Jewish if it's your daughter, if it's your Jewish daughter, and therefore, he's still going to be Jewish, and he'll be turned away because of his Jewish father. So that teaches you. Let's go back and read that in the Gemara. Okay, bincha haba Yisrael kar bincha. So your son, if it's the Jewish woman and the non-Jewish husband, then he, the non-Jewish husband, is going to turn your grandson away from me. So the union of the non-Jewish man and the Jewish woman is still Jewish, but the reverse would not be true. But it was the reverse. It was your Jewish son and their non-Jewish daughter. Then he would not be turning your children away from me because they wouldn't be Jewish to begin with, because the kids of the non-Jewish mother would be not Jewish. Okay, so that is now, you can understand, like, it's not like such a blowout proof from the pasuk. It does start from a grammatical problem. He will turn your son, not he will turn your daughter, which would have been a more straightforward thing to say. But this is on which the Gemara bases the idea of matrilineal descent.
Anyway, the way I always looked at it was that I don't know if I'm getting the common expression correctly, but daughter, the expression "daughters stay with you," because who's going to take care of the parents at the end of the day? It's going to be the daughters.
Right.
So means that, the daughter will still stay somewhat in the family structure, and then and just.
But he's
not telling you anything about the grandkids.
I understand that that's shot of the psukim, although you still have to figure out who the he is, right? Because
that's why it doesn't mention son.
I understand. Yes.
The non-Jewish in-law is this with a Jewish mother that we're talking about? I can't tell. You have non-Jewish.
Yeah, everybody is not Jewish except this forbidden union, which is what the Torah is talking about. So this would be a non-Jewish father, not Jewish mother. The
non-Jewish mother.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the problem, that if a Jewish son marries this non-Jewish girl, that the grandfather, the father-in-law, is going to take this son away.
This son away.
Yeah.
That's the way Rabbeinu Tam reads.
Oh, take this son away. Not
That's the way Rabbeinu Tam reads it. Maybe I shouldn't have told you Rabbeinu Tam. It's easier. Let's go back to Rashi. Okay. We heard that, Michael. Okay, but we're going back to Rashi. Rashi is easier. He, the non-Jewish man that your daughter is marrying, will turn your sons. They're going to be your sons which proves that they're Jewish. So he, the non-Jewish man that your daughter is marrying, will turn your sons away from me. Okay, that's what Rashi says. All right, that's the easy bit. Okay, now the word says like that. Easier to understand. Right? Okay, so the word says like this. I'm a Ravina.
The reason why I asked it, Rabbi, is because if it was the other way, then even if a woman converted, then still there's a problem with the in-laws. Having an effect.
That's true, but we're assuming that the only impact power that they'll have is based on the kids. But I hear the one. Okay. But it sounds like this. Amar Ravina, Shmamina, we hear from this, Ben Bitcha, Haba Mi'avi Kochavim, that the son of your daughter, if your daughter married a non-Jewish man, Kari Bincha is still your son. Okay, now that seems to be just a complete restatement of what Rabbi Yochanan said, which is why Tosfos tries to make Rabbi Yochanan say something a little different, but it doesn't matter. He's basically re-saying the same point. Jewish mother, not Jewish father, the child is Jewish. Which, by the way, was not stated in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, non-Jewish mother, the kid is not Jewish. Did not tell you Jewish mother, not Jewish father, what the kid is. Okay? And that's now what the Gemara is going to question. Okay, so let's take a look. You could have said hakol holech hachar hapagam. You could have said if they don't have two Jewish parents, it's always not Jewish. The Mishnah did not talk about that. Ravina says yes. Ravina says explicitly the what do you call it? The matrilineal descent. Ben bincha haba min ovid kochavim kari bincha. Okay, still your son if it's your Jewish daughter had the kid. Neima kasav Ravina ovid kochavim ve'eved habal bat Yisrael havlad mamzer. Now the Gemara thinks, ironically, oh, you're saying it's still Jewish. That actually means it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a mamzer. Why is it going to be a mamzer? Who can remind me from a few days ago? What is the principle of what type of a child of what union becomes a mamzer?
Oh, union is not allowed.
That not just not allowed, but that Kiddushin isn't binding. So the union between a Jewish woman and a non-Jewish man, the Kiddushin isn't binding. So you could say Jewish or not Jewish as the child. But if you say Jewish, then let's say mamzer. That's normal principle, right? A kid through a union that does not have Kiddushin, Tofsin, that Kiddushin can't be binding, the kid is a mamzer. So if you would say non-Jewish, Rashi would actually say in a way that would be better than just convert the kid and he wouldn't be a mamzer. Okay, but by saying Jewish, you're now suggesting the other possible negative consequence, which is that the kid is a mamzer. Okay, would that be true? So the Gemara says, no, he the kosher lo have, mamzer lo have. Nobody's saying the kid is totally kosher. I mean, it's true he came from a forbidden union, but Ravina didn't say he was a mamzer either. Okay, and as Rashi explains, the case when we say Kiddushin isn't Tofsin is when each of the parties, the man or the woman, could marry someone else. Right? If it's a case of, of adultery, if it's a case of incest, both the man and the woman could marry somebody else, but they can't marry each other. That's the kid is a mamzer. But the case of a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish father, the non-Jewish father can't marry anyone within halacha. He can marry non-Jew, but can't marry anyone within our sphere, within halacha. So that's a different type of a category. So we have actually, right, three possibilities of a non-Jewish father and a Jewish mother. One is we could say not Jewish, which nobody is saying. Okay, although nobody, the Mishnah didn't tell us what the story is. Right, this is the matrilineal descent. The Mishnah did not tell us what the story is with a Jewish mother and a not Jewish father. So theoretically, you could have said not Jewish, but Ravina says no, Jewish. But even within Jewish, so it parallels non-Jewish mother, non-Jewish, Jewish mother, Jewish. It parallels. You could have said mamzer, because the kid's not through a relationship that the Kiddushin is binding, or you could say the most lenient, which is Jewish and not mamzer. But the Gemara still uses this phrase, not kasher. Now, what type of a halachic status is not kasher? Does it just mean, it's not good thing? There's some stigma, it's not appropriate, it came through a forbidden union. What does exactly not kasher mean? So it's interesting, I'll just say two things about that. One is that there are some Gemaras that understand that when they're talking about halachas that apply to a ger, they also sort of think that maybe sometimes some of this should relate to a case of a Jewish mother and a not Jewish father. Because even though that person isn't a ger, right, nevertheless, their Jewish identity is somewhat, certainly biologically only halfway. So technically, not technically, halachically, we put them in the Jewish category, but there's something that's a little bit like not in this sort of quasi-ger category. Because they didn't totally, it's not, it's like the ger is different. I mean, the ger started totally not Jewish and then an active conversion. This person didn't do an active conversion, but there's some non-Jewish component there. So that's number one, interesting in terms of how when the Gemara thinks about ger, does it also somewhat consider the case of non-Jewish father? The other place where it's very relevant is the question, and a lot of people aren't aware about this, of Kohanim, that there's a whole debate, not on this Gemara, and this Gemara gives a hint to it, but in another Gemara, in a debate how we paskin about whether a Kohen is allowed to marry a woman with a non-Jew who was born from a non-Jewish father, not even with a Jewish mother.
Sorry, a woman. Say again.
A woman. I said that wrong. Yeah, excuse me. Whether a male Kohen, thank you. Whether a male Kohen is allowed to marry a woman born from a Jewish mother, not Jewish father. Is this idea of not kasher somehow creates some problem for a Kohen? Not a doraita problem, some Rabbanan problem, whatever problem is. Not kasher. I mean, the Gemara doesn't spell it out, but I'm just pointing out that, it's not clear at all that it has halachic ramifications, but two areas where this status is dealt with is, number one, issues about gerim. Does it a little bit consider them somewhat to be, in a quasi-gerim category? And number two, vis-a-vis Kohen. All right, but now we've got the principle. Non-Jewish mother, not Jewish. Jewish mother, Jewish. Good. Okay. Now the Gemara says like this. Okay. Okay. Lo have pasum mikri. Okay. Okay. So now the Gemara says like this. Need the kasha lo have mamzer lo have. I didn't read the punchline. Pasum mikri. He's considered puzzle. He's not considered a mamzer. He's considered puzzle. So what exactly puzzle means? That's what I just discussed. Like one discussion is for a Kohen, other discussions, etc. Okay, but certainly it's obviously not ideal. Doesn't have a Jewish father. Now the Gemara has another question. Hahu b'shiva goyim ksiv. Shar umas minolim, that pasuk of L'titchatin bam, and which refers to the issur of intermarriage and also refers to the status of the child of such an intermarriage, is talking about the 7 Canaanite nations. How do you know to apply this to the other non-Jews? Amar Kra, so the verse says, Ki yasir et bincha, because it says, he will turn away your son. L'rabot kol ha'mesirim. So effectively it describes the problem with this is that he'll turn away your child. That comes to teach you that the verse is not limited to the 7 Canaanite nations. It refers to any non-Jewish nation, any non-Jewish person who will turn your child away from being Jewish. Okay, so that broadens the context of the verse. So the verse says, what?
I'm not understanding the connection between those two things.
Okay, the context of the psukim, right? I mean, if you open up, if you look in the psukim there in Dvarim, right, it says you're going to go into the land and whatever, and it's the 7 Canaanite nations, don't intermarry with them. It's explicitly the context of the 7 Canaanite nations. Right. So the Gemara says, how do we know to expand it that these statuses apply to all non-Jews? So since the verse says that the reason you shouldn't give your son to their daughter and your daughter to their son is that they'll turn your child away from me, so that is explained if that tells us the reason, we can use that reason to determine the parameters of who are we referring to.
That reason would apply to others.
Since that reason applies to all non-Jewish nations, that expands. Now, what probably you're bothering you is, but the verse says 7 Canaanite nations,
and maybe they're the ones who would lead your kid astray,
and maybe they're the ones that are the most dangerous, right? So let's look at the next line of the Gemara. The Gemara says, "Hani chalu Rabbi Shimon, the Darish time of the Korah." That's good for Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is willing to use the reason of the pasuk to redefine the parameters of the psukim. Ella Rabbanan my taima, but for the rabbis who do not explain the reason of the verse, what can you say? Now, that does not mean that the rabbis say, "Oh, you're not allowed to try to discuss what the reason of a mitzvah is." It means whether you can speculate, assume, it's whatever, take the reason of a mitzvah and use it to redefine the parameters of the mitzvah in ways in which is not the simple sense of the verse. So the best example of this is the pasuk about do not lo sachvo beged almanah, do not take as collateral the garment of a widow. So the question is, what if she is a rich widow? Now, of course, for all of us, we would think, oh yeah, that shouldn't be relevant there. But we're thinking that the problem of the prohibition is because, you're depriving this poor person of their garment and it's, oppressive, etc. Wouldn't apply by a rich person. Because Rabbi Shimon, who's Darshin at the time of the Korah, he also assumes it doesn't apply to a rich widow, but for a completely different reason. He thinks that the problem of taking the garment of a widow as collateral is you have to return the garment every single day, right? If you take a poor person's garment as collateral, you have to return it so that they can use it each day, and you take it at night. He says now you're constantly dropping in this home of this widow, who doesn't have a man in the home, so it raises suspicion. That's how he reads. So it just shows you, even if you say Darshin at the time of the Korah, we can have vastly different assumptions of what the time of the Korah is. But anyway, but he says, so even though the verse says categorically, do not take the garment of a widow as collateral, it doesn't refer to all widows. It only refers to poor widows. So we're willing to take what we assume is the reason of the verse and use it to define the parameters. Now here, however, here the question is a little different because here the verse gives you the reason. So the way Rashi explains it is the following. If the verse had not said, Ki yasirat bincha, I would have said, yeah, the reason is he'll lead your kid astray, but that's unique to the Shivas Amamim. As Jenna said, they're the ones that are the biggest threat. It was superfluous. The verse didn't have to say Ki yasir bincha. Anyway, I would have assumed that because I normally am willing to engage in the reason of the pasuk. If it now tells me explicitly that's to tell me that I should broaden the scope of the pasuk to include anybody who might fall into that category. Something like that. Okay, anyway, that's the way Rashi reads it. Tosfos has a slightly different version. But anyway, so for Rabbi Shimon, we don't have to limit it to Shivas Amamim. We can redefine it based on Ki yasirat bincha. But according to the Rabbanan, we can't redefine it. So how do you know that's true? So the Gemara says, Amakra v'achar tavo elehu v'elta, coming from a completely different place from the case of the Yifas Tohar. After she mourns her mother and father, then you can have sex with her and take her as your wife. So before this whole process, Kiddushin would not be binding. Okay? Then that's not a Canaanite nation. That's exactly about going to war against the non-Canaanite nations outside of the land. So the Gemara says, fine. There we know Kiddushin doesn't take effect. How do you know that the child is like the mother? Because, right, we don't have the pasuk of Ki asirat bincha. So Amakra, Ki tiena leish shtei nashim v'yaldu lo, right? It's a man has two wives and they give birth to two children. Kol echad dekarina and Ki tiena. Anytime we say that when you are married, when marriage is binding, karina be v'yaldu lo. That then, if you can marry this woman, again, speaking from the male perspective, then they're your kids. And when it is a woman, again, we have to read this as that when it is a woman for whom no male Jew can be married to, okay? So, and it's Kiddushin is not just forbidden. Kiddushin is not binding for anybody, any male Jew, right? Because not just any woman that Kiddushin isn't binding. Lo karin baby yaldulo, that the kids are not yours and the kids are not Jewish. Okay, so that's how we sort of get it out of that pasuk. Again, we don't get the converse. We don't get Jewish mother and not Jewish father, right? Which is what we said before. We only get the non-Jewish mother and the Jewish father. Okay, 1 minute. Ihachi shifchanami. So if that's true, we can learn the halacha by a shifcha also that the kids are her kids, and we don't need the pasuk of hishav yeladeha, which we had yesterday. Okay, which told us that the kids of a servant are her kids. Here we're saying, as long as it's a woman that no man can marry, the kids are not yours. The kids are belong to the mother. So the Gemara says that's true. That'd be true. Why do we need the pasuk by a shifcha? Same point. No Jewish man can marry this woman, so the kids are the mothers. So the Gemara says, "Einachinami." You're right. So what do I learn from the verse that the children go to the mother? According, I already knew that in the case of the shifcha. It says the like we taught in the Brisa, top of Samat Adam Aleph. Somebody says to his female servant, you are a free woman. But your fetus child that's in your womb is going to remain a slave. I am not freeing your unborn baby. So Havlad Kamosa, Rabbi Yossi says he can't do that. If you're freeing the mother, you can the child automatically is free no matter what you say. And the Chachamim say, no, you're able to split it. Because it says the woman and the children will be to the master. So the Gemara says, my Talmuda. What did you learn from that verse? How did that verse say you can split, and free the mother and not free the kids? So the Gemara says, Amarava ad Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That last line that quotes the verse is supporting Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who says you can't split it. How do I know you can't split it? Free the mother and keep the kids, because it says ha'ishav yiladet yeladonah. When the mother is your slave, then the kids are your slave. But you cannot do it so that the mother isn't your slaves and the kids, the unborn kids, are still yours. Okay, so that's what you learn from the pasuk, at least according to Rabbi Yossi Haglili, that you cannot free the mother and keep the kids. But basically, according to this, we either learn the idea that there's no Kiddushin and the kids go by the mother by lotischatin bam and bichal lotitein levanecha, or akiasir pinchamecha, right? Or and we apply that to all non-Jews, or we learn it from kitiyena leish v'yaldu lo. Only a woman for whom Kiddushin is binding for some Jewish man, or do the kids go by follow the father? Otherwise, they are the mothers, and then we assume the reverse, that a Jewish mother and a not Jewish father, the kids are going to be Jewish. Yes.
But if anything, if I look at the Torah, it seems like very much the opposite. It seems that a Jewish man that marries a non-Jewish woman, the Kiddushin is valid, and the kids are Jewish. Because what do you do with Yehuda and Yosef?
You're totally correct that the pshat of the psukim is that when you basically look, it's mishpachotam leveit avotam. It's a tribal patriarchal society. Everything follows the father. The woman would be presumed that the woman leaves her home and goes to the husband's home, right? So so of course that's the natural thing is to assume that it would be all patrilineal, which is why this Gemara is so shocking in the way that it says that everything is patrilineal except when it comes to religion, which is matrilineal. So historians say that yes, that there was a time in Jewish history before the rabbinic period, when probably it did go by the father, or maybe it went by both. But certainly the matrilineal they see is something that sort of came through, got crystallized in the rabbinic period, which doesn't have to threaten us. I mean, for anybody who believes that Torah Shebaal Peh is a process in which the rabbis are empowered to interpret the psukim and is not, and the halacha can evolve, which is exactly what Rambam says many, many times, But for some people, that's very threatening to think it ever was different. But you're right. I mean, it's certainly the pshat is that in a patriarchal, patrilineal society, why should this be any different? And I agree with you. But yeah,
because the Gemara doesn't answer any of these. I mean,
I know.
Right.
Yeah, Jenna.
Really quick, that last little bit of Gemara, it left the Chachamim with no proof, right?
Right.
I
mean, they don't darshan the pasuk the same way, But that's right, So they don't approve it, but they don't feel, they don't have to read the pasuk the way we also believe it. Let's look at the next Mishnah. Let's wrap up this parak. I can make mamzerim, not make them not mamzerim, but at least get their kids to not be mamzerim. How are you going to do that? Since we said if either the mother or the father is a mamzer, the kid is a mamzer. So he says, Ketzad, mamzer should not nasa shivcha, because I'm going to base it on what we just taught in the previous Mishnah. Have the mamzer marry a slave woman, Havlad Evet.
A non-Jewish.
Well, no, I mean, whatever. What do you mean non-Jewish slave? I mean, it's not an Evet Ivri.
No,
Shivcha means a Shivcha Kanan. That's right.
I mean.
Yeah. Have marry a non-Jewish slave woman. I mean, she's partly chayiv in mitzvahs because whatever, she's halachically a Shivcha. Okay, so anyway, have him marry a slave woman where we said that the kids are slaves. And if they're slaves and they follow the mother, the whole label of mamzer, presumably only applies to Jews, right? So once they follow the mother, presumably the mamzer identity is irrelevant, and they're non-Jews. Havlad Evet, shicharo, and then free your kids. Nimsa abed ben chorin, and then the kid will be a free Jewish non-mamzer. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Harei Ze Evet Mamzer. No, I'm sorry. The mamzer, the status passes on.
Now he's worse.
Now it's worse, right? So it's an interesting question that a slave can also have a mamzer status. Okay, let's take a look at the Gemara. By the way, I will tell you that Rav Moshe has a tshuva where he basically suggests implementing this in practice. He says, if you have a mamzer, what should you do? Because even though we're going to learn in the next Mishnah that a mamzer can marry a gioret, for example, or a mamzeret, the kids are still going to be a mamzer, which is what we learned in the previous Mishnah, even if there's no, so what Rav Moshe said, although no, the previous Mishnah didn't say that. The previous Mishnah said when there's yesh avera. But nevertheless, it still is the halacha, right? The previous Mishnah only spoke about the case of, hold on. Yesh avera. Anyway, but even in the case where ein avera, where it's a mamzer and a gioret, right? I think the Gemara even discussed that case. Yeah, ger shenas mamzeres. Yesh kiddushin havlad olech ar hapikah. Right. So anyway, it doesn't follow the Mishnah. That was one of the exceptions, as I said yesterday. Fine. Anyway, the halacha is that there's ways in which a mamzer can marry, but it doesn't stop the kids from being mamzerim. A mamzer can marry a mamzeret, or mamzeres can marry a mamzer, or a ger, a gioret, etc. But the kids are still mamzerim. So if Moshe says what you should, a person should do if he or she, we'll talk about she in the Gemara. If he's a mamzer, is go ahead and date non-Jewish women. Find a non-Jewish woman who you want to marry, who's prepared to, who wants to buy into the following scheme, okay? And basically, then become her as an evet. Live with this woman without Kiddushin.
He wants the husband himself to kone.
Exactly, because then he's going to have to be able to free her at the end. Okay, there has to be his, anyway. Become her as a shifcha, as an evet. Don't have Kiddushin. Live together, your entire married life until you're done having kids. Okay, she would still be chayiv in mitzvahs. The irony of this, or the non-irony of this, is that her chayiv mitzvahs would be exactly the same as a Jewish woman, because a slave's obligation in mitzvahs is the same as a woman. Right. So actually, her hilchos nida would still apply because eved cannot, whatever, non-Jewish shivcha or eved, the same halachas apply. So hilchos nida applies to a shivcha kanani. So anyway, so basically all the normal halachas would apply. You just halachically wouldn't be married, but it would be anyway. So that you'd have all your kids, and when you're done having your kids, you free the mother and you free the kids. Okay, and that's how you start.
And then she becomes
a free Jewish woman, and then you could do a kiddushin.
So why not just do this for conversion also?
That's what I'm saying. It could solve two problems.
I'm saying one more time.
If there's a woman who really wants to convert, and there's a beis din who's being really difficult and frustrating, the woman should just be taken as an eved by a man who lives with her, and then
we've been going around about this all wrong, I think.
Yeah, what have we been doing?
Well, that gets to the question that the conversion also That also gets to the question that conversion also requires Kabbalah's mitzvahs. Now, but it might be whether the Kabbalah's mitzvahs can be forced in the case of the conversion or whatever. But it's not like the Beis Din that is so restrictive about conversion is all of a sudden going to say, "Oh, okay, well, shivchos that we're good with doing."
No,
believe me, they'll find some problem with making her into a shivcha as well. What?
So then you don't need the Beis Din, right? Or do you need a Beis Din to turn?
You need, yeah, because the Gemara says, "Kishem shetovlin as a ger, kach tovlin as a eved," or whatever. There's like all these halachas of how you make somebody into an eved. Okay, anyway,
these children would not be halachically his. Right?
These children would be. Oh, that's true. Legally, they would not be his children. I mean, it would sort of be like an adoption case, essentially, right? Halachically, because once he went as slaves, they're not his kids, and when as free children, they're not.
They would inherit him.
They wouldn't. Yeah, right.
So
exactly.
in an adoption, also they're halachically not the child.
Correct.
And they're not technically chayav the mitzvah of the kids, are they?
Yes, they are.
Oh, yeah.
Once they're free, they are.
No, until then.
Well, it depends. Yeah, until then, correct. They're not. Well,
They could just-
they have
you
the
could
same
just
level
free
of
this-
chiyuv as women. So,
But if they're men, let's say he has male children.
so whatever
couldn't he
obligation.
just
I mean,
free
it's
them once
interesting.
they're
How does chinuch work in underage avadim? I have no idea how to answer that question.
You
But
couldn't just free them once they're born. Do they have to wait until? Shivchos over?
that's true. That's true. I think you're right. He could free the kids as they're being born. He doesn't have to wait. He just can't free his wife until he's done having. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can free the kids as they're being born. Okay, fine. So the Gemara says like this: Ibailu. They raised the violent question. Rabbi Tar Ibailu. Or the question was right. Rabbi Tarfin lechatchila kama. When Rabbi Tarfin says, "Here's how you could solve the mamzer problem," does he say it's mutter? Oh, di'evet kama, or only b'di'evet? The question being, is a mamzer lechatchila allowed to marry a shifcha? A mamzer allowed to marry a gioret, but is he allowed to? Because there's no isser for Yisrael to marry a gioret, but there's an isser for Yisrael to marry a shifcha. Is a mamzer allowed to marry a shifcha? That's the question. So the Gemara says, Tashma, come in here. Amr lo Rabbi Tarfon, they said to Rabbi Tarfon, Tihartes as a charim. That works for the males. The male mamzer. The lo tihartes in the cave is not the females. Okay, what does that teach you? The Gemara says, what's the difference between males and females? If you're allowed to go ahead and in public say, hey, I'm looking for a shifcha to marry, so a mamzeres can say, I'm looking for an eved to marry. So mamzeres nami tinaseh la'avda. So let her also marry an eved. So the Gemara, bizarrely thinks that the difference between the male and the female is the following: if you're not lechatchila allowed to marry a shifcha or an eved, so a man can go somewhere anonymously, pretend that he's an eved, and look for a shifcha to marry, and he could get away with it. But a woman, cannot go off anonymously somewhere and pretend that she's a shifcha. Rashi says there are too many people that are, fathers, brothers, or whatever, who are going to protect their daughter, sister, and so on. And she doesn't have the same freedom as a man to go off on her own somewhere and pretend she's somebody that she isn't. Okay, so that's the way Rashi understands it. So if you had to fake it and pretend you were an evet to get them in order to marry a shifcha, well, that a man could do, a woman couldn't do that. But if it's lechatchila, you're allowed to do it. Why could a woman not do it? So the Gemara says like this: no, evet ein lo chiyus. So it says a lot of things in those four words, but it basically says this doesn't work for slaves, right? For male men, right? You don't even understand the question. A non-Jewish man and Jewish mother. What did we just say the kid was? Jewish, right? Non-Jewish man and Jewish mother. So Jewish mother who's a mamzeret and a slave, what would you say the kid is? A Jewish mamzer, right? So that's what they say. It doesn't go by the father. If the father is a slave, that the kid doesn't become a non-Jew. The kid would follow the mother, and it would be a mamzer. It only works if the father is the mamzer, and then the kid follows the mother, and the mother becomes not Jewish. It's so funny what the Mas Halamina was. Right? Once we establish the kid goes after the mother when it's a Jew non-Jew issue. Of course, if the mother is a mamzer, the kid is going to be Jewish and therefore a mamzer. So this whole solution only works for a male mamzer. Okay, so the Gemara says like this: Tashma the ushbezichne. To Rabbi Simlai, the host, wherever he was lodging, of Rabbi Simlai, mamzer have was a mamzer. Amalei, Rabbi Simlai said to him, aktam tach, if I had known you earlier, tiartinahu, l'banecha, I could have made your kids not mamzerim. Meaning, if I had known you before you got married, I could have advised you who to marry, and you made your kids not mamzerim. So the Gemara says, if you say lechatchila, you're allowed to do this, good. Then he would have advised him to marry a shifcha. That would have been mutter. But if you're not allowed to marry a shifcha, but b'di'evet this works, mind you, the menasiv le'etza, mind you. So what are we talking about? How could he go ahead and tell him to do something that's forbidden? So the Gemara says, no. Here's how he would have made it permissible for him to marry a shifcha. To menasiv le'etza, he would have advised him, and he would said to him, Zilgnov, go burgle somebody's property. You're not allowed to burgle either. If he's stopping the Evet Ivri, then you'll be sold as an Evet. And once you're sold as an Evet Ivri, an Evet Ivri is allowed to marry a Shifcha Knanis. So even if it's usher for a Mamzer to marry a Shifcha Knanis, it would have been mutter for an Evet Ivri. So the Gemara obviously says, now Rashi says, isn't it usher to steal? So I says, all right, the Gemara could ask that. But anyway, it rejects this suggestion for another reason. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara says, 1 minute. Since when were the halachas of Eved Ivri applying in the days of Rabbi Simlai? The Avar Mar ain't Eved Ivri no, it only applies when there's Yovel. So the laws of a Shifcha Knanis apply even nowadays. But Eved Ivri only applies when there's a Yovel. So the Gemara says, since we see that Rav Simlai was prepared to advise somebody about this, we see lechatchila that there's no prohibition for a mamzer to marry a shifcha. The same way a mamzer can marry a mamzeret, a mamzer can marry a shifcha. Shmamina, that's a good proof. So the law mutter lechatchila. I'm Rav Yudam Shmuel halachak Rabbi Tarfin. So there you go. It's mutter lechatchila. We paskin that way. Here it solves the problem, and as Jenna rightly pointed out, the kids could be Jewish right away. As soon as they're born, they could be freed. So this is a way with the male moms to solve the problem. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer, you just have to get the woman to agree. Rabbi Eliezer, raise the Evan moms. No, the mom's status passes on to the kids. I'm Rabbi Eliezer. My time is Rabbi Eliezer. What's the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer? Damakra, low. It says y'all do low, but wait, is that the puzzle? What's the low? Hold on. I think it's y'all do low banim, right? Oh no, I'm sorry. Lo yavo lo.
What's that?
No. Gam dur asiri. No, I'm sorry. It's by the mamzer. Not yaldu lo banim. I think about yesterday. It's by the mamzer. Gam dur asiri lo yavo lahem vikal Hashem. Even the 10th generation of a mamzer, he, the child, whatever, cannot go. Whoever that further generation is. Even the 10th generation, that child, that person in that later generation. Lo yavo lo b'kal Hashem. Lo yavo lo b'kal Hashem. Did I not say the low? The second low? Lo yavo lo b'kal Hashem. So low means halach achar psulo, that the stigma always follows him.
But it isn't the
okay. So any future generation will follow the father. If the father is a mamzer, all future generations, and that means like regardless, even if it's with union with a shifcha. So the Gemara says, no, hope Yisrael shenasa mamzeres. No, that's talking about a Yisrael who married a mamzeres. That's when, now, what is it telling you? It's telling you not that this psul of mamzer passes on, that we know, but it's telling you it's a different halacha. That even though the kid is a mamzer, he still is his father's child. So that tells you something like more positive, okay? I would have thought, so that it says that you go by, I'm sorry, I misstated it. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, no, we're back. I'm sorry. Let's do that again. Okay, let's do this again from the beginning. Sorry, I'm Rebbe Eliezer. My time is Rebbe Eliezer. What's in Rebbe Eliezer that says even with a shifcha, the child is a mamzer? So the Amakra lo yavo lo b'kal Hashem. So the future generations cannot come. Halacha kapsulon. Any future generations of this mamzer are also mamzer, regardless of who the mother is. For Rabbanan, who Yisrael shenasa mamzeres. That is the case of Yisrael that married a mamzeres, not a mamzer who married a shifcha. Yisrael married a mamzeres. And I might have thought that kid actually is not a mamzer, that you don't follow the psul. That we are a patriarchal, tribal society, and therefore the psul does not go by the mother. And in the case of a mamzer mother and a non-mamzer father, the kid wouldn't be a mamzer. That would be nice. So Lo, Afke, and Lo says no, that it's that it is going to be that Lo Yavo Lo, that this later child also cannot is also a mamzer, even if the father was not a mamzer. Okay, so the Gemara says,
you mean it still goes the mamzer? This mamzer status goes based on the father or the mother. Whoever's the mamzer.
Yes. Yes. So okay. So
it says mamzer, not mamzeret, which is a
Yisrael Shanasa Mamzeres. I would have thought you go by the father. Okay, And then it says no, that all future generations are still a mamzer.
Wait, no, I'm saying you plus well,
that's a good point. Okay, that's a good point. Rabbi Eliezer lav avagav diksiv lemishpachasam leviazor sam asalo afke. So hachanami avagav diksiv haisha v'ledat yaladonah asalo afke. So the Gemara says 1 minute, but according to hold on, I got to reread this. Makes sense when I did it last night. Yeah. All right. So he's saying like this. You said that the word lo is coming to tell you don't follow the normal types of groupings, the normal types. Normally you would assume the child goes by the father. But when it says by a mamzer, lo yavo lo bikal Hashem gam dorei siri, it means regardless of how you would normally categorize this person, a descendant of a mamzer is a mamzer. That's how you're reading it. So even if the father isn't a mamzer, the kid is still going to be a mamzer. We don't go by just follow, the tribal father identity. So if that's what you're going to say, so say the same thing if the mother is a shivcha. So Rabbi Eliezer says back, even though we normally follow the father's identity, Asalo Afke, the lo tells you that the child is going to be a mamzer, and we're not going to just go by the father. So Hachanami, even though normally the child of a shivcha is an eved and doesn't follow the father, Asalo Afke, the lo should tell you that no, if the father was a mamzer, the kid is a mamzer. Even in this case, lo is just telling you it's always going to be a problem with the mamzer. You can't get out of it. You can't go by the normal groupings. For Abanan, and the rabbis would say no. So we had to end with this, which we had yesterday too. But this comparison of a slave to an animal, but we'll just make it a little more abstract and say that the child of a non-Jewish woman is also completely out of the sort of the category of in terms of the Jewish identity, that it completely breaks any relationship with the parent. Okay, so therefore,
bring that line when he's trying to convince the woman to do the.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the child of a non-Jewish woman, the identity completely breaks from the father. It's not just a question that the kid is Jewish, but does it follow the father, follow the mother? There we can say that even though tribally Shevet follows the father, it still has the status of mamzer of the mother. That makes more sense within our normal parameters that we're still working within Jewish identity. And the question is just, does the mamzer status pass on? Then we could say, even if it's only the mother. But in this case, where the mother is not Jewish, it's seen completely outside of the Jewish identity, and therefore that would be a full break. Yes. Okay. So, Havdalah Omer. That is end of a very fun and extremely important parak, which started with more issues about, I think, Tnaim and so on, if I remember correctly, but ended with all of these issues about what types of marriages are permissible and what the consequence of the child. Is the child a mamzer? Is the child a Jew or not Jew, and so on. The next parak begins with continues this discussion of Yuchsin and Asara Yuchsin, and we will see it's a very interesting. It has a lot of but a lot of very also relevant issues in terms of these halachas of marriage and permissible marriage and issues of what's it called? What's the word for Yuchsin? Lineage, I guess. Thank you. Okay, Asara Yuchsin Olami Bavel. You see how I was doing this? I was doing the line here, right? Asari Yuchsin Olami Bavel. 10 different types of lineage categories, I guess we'll call it that, came from Bavel with Ezra. They made Aliyah. Kohani, Leviye, Yisraeli. It's funny that it has the yud and not the mem, ending, but it's an adjective, I guess. Anyway, Kohani, Levim, Yisraelim, Chalalim, which is a Kohen who's born of a forbidden union of a Kohen, let's say in a Grusha. The kid is a Chalal, doesn't have Kedushas Kahuna. Okay. Gerim. Chirure, which is Mishuchrarim, slaves that have been freed. Mamzeri.
So those are not Yisraelim, technically?
Well, they're at slightly different status.
No, but
Yeah. All these are Yisraelim. They just have different statuses. Nisini, okay, which is the Nisinim, the Givonim, that, basically converted under false pretenses. And the Gemara says that, David HaMelech basically made a gzeirah that they should not intermarry within the Jewish, within the Jewish nation. Shtuki v'asufi. And the Shtuki and Asufi are two people who don't know who their parents are. We'll see in a minute. One means, we'll see what the Mishnah will tell you what they mean. Right, I know. The Mishnah will tell you what they mean. Now, Koni Levi Yisraeli. Now, with this here, here's a nice way of saying this. I'm going to do it, rather than do it horizontal, I'll do it vertical because this is obviously a hierarchy.
Just take out your chart from your bonus.
Yisraeli. Okay, let's do the list. Read it to me. Chavali.
Gerim, Charurim, Mamzerim, Yitinim, Shtukim, and Asufim.
So, okay. Koni Leviv Yisraelim Mutarim Lavo Zeh B'Zeh. Okay. This group can all marry within one. With anybody from this group can marry anybody else from that group. Levi Yisraeli Chalali Geir V'Charuri Mutarim Lavo Zeh B'Zeh. Levi Yisraeli Chalali Geir V'Charuri. Okay. All of these are Jews that you can intermarry with. Abed Meshuchrer is a Jew. Ger Halal does not have kahuna, but a Kohen cannot marry a halal, right? A halala, right? A Kohen, right? Isha is b'shav halal cannot marry ger. We halachically ger and Evan Meshuchrer get put into, well, it's like a ger, get put into the zona category because of a presumption that they would have had a sexual life outside of marriage and so on. I mean, we can talk about that later. But anyway, but all of these people are totally mutter for Yisraelim because this section is usher for Kohanim. Okay? Geri v'cheruri umamzeri v'nesini shtuki v'asufi kulam etarm level zebzeh. Now, let's mamzer. Okay, Nesini, that was part of David HaMelech Zera, but we'll sort of assume it's sort of like a mamzer. Anyway, mamzer, obviously, Yisrael can't marry a mamzer. Okay? But it says, now this is, I always find this stuff so difficult, because the pasuk by Rabbi says lo yavo lo bikal Hashem, so somehow that is seen as not including Gerim and Meshuchrarim, because even though now they're Jewish, somehow because they're not Jewish by birth, it's not seen as the same sort of inner circle of Kahal Hashem, which is it's deep. It's disturbing how whatever that on the one hand the psukim speak about, right, Mishpat echad yelachem lager v'lezrach haaretz, and then there are areas in which they're seen as okay, this actually gives you latitude and freedom. Right. I understand, but there are also negative consequences, like ger can't have a position of authority and other types of things, that it's not seen as the primary Kahal Hashem. Okay, that's something to be discussed at a more theological or religious level. But anyway, so therefore, a ger and meshuchra, which are basically like a ger, right, started non-Jew, can marry mamzer and nesini. Now, how about shtuki and asufi? Let's take a look at who shtuki and asufi is. Okay, ve'elohem shtuki. Here's a shtuki. Kol shu makiret imo ve'inu makiret aviv. He knows who his mother is. He doesn't know who his father is. So he says, "Mom, where's Dad?" And Mom says, "Oh, just be quiet. Shut up. Okay." So, or Rashi says maybe he calls somebody else Daddy, and his mother says, "Shh, that's not your father." Okay. Anyway, the guy whose mother is currently married to. Anyway, that's so you don't know who the father is. A Sufi is Tosha Nesaf Min Ashur. It's an orphan, a foundling, exactly, gathered in from the market, left in the basket. So basically, those two are considered to be Safek Mamzerim. Now, I do have to say, the fact that a shtuki is a Safek Mamzer is pretty funny, because if the mother does, if we don't know who the father is, but the mother was an unmarried woman, right? So it's not a question of did she commit adultery. The only question is what? Was it her brother? I mean, how can you have a kid that's a mamzer, and it's not a case of adultery? It would have to be basically, what?
The father was a mamzer.
Oh, you're so right. It's such a good point. Okay, thank you. I don't know why. I was like 1 minute, that would have to be an incest case, but you're totally right. Of course, if the father was a mamzer. Excellent. Okay, forget what I just said. That's absolutely correct. Okay, good. So if you don't know who the father is, or you don't know who either is,
assume that the father was a mamzer.
No, but it might be. Right? To be choshesh for incest would be bizarre. But if you have no idea who the father is, okay, it's true. It's probably still a meal, right, but it's not as that we would anyway. Okay, well, we'll see. But in Yuchsin in general, it's a good question. In Yuchsin in general, we don't just go by we're more medactic than just going by rows. It's sort of like, take this analogy for what it's worth. Before the Hechsher industries came onto the scene, you would basically say, yeah, whatever. What's the chash here? Even if I'm very unlikely there's something treif, even though it would be so small, it would be batal. I mean, you read how the Rishonim deal with they talk about how you could go buy not Jewish bread, and they say, yeah, because it probably we can assume that the eggs didn't have were kosher eggs and didn't have blood spots. So we could assume they didn't do this. We could assume they didn't. That's fine. Go ahead and buy the bread. Okay, so that's what you have if you don't have a Hechsher industry, right? All of a sudden you have a Hechsher industry, and it's forget any halachas of bittul, forget anything. You can never trust anything unless you know exactly 100% what's in there. Even if there's a treif, a chash of some treif thing, even if 100% it's batal, we won't give a hechsher to it. I won't eat it. That's sort of like what happened with Yuchsin. Okay, so we're not just going to go by, oh, probably it's not a problem. Everybody becomes super makpid at really knowing lineage, knowing all the details, and anytime there's a suffix. Okay, so but it's not that easy because that's just a chum, as we're about to see. So these two are considered suffix mamzerim, and the halacha is so a Yisrael can't marry, or a halal, whatever is also Yisrael, can't marry mamzer or suffix mamzer, which is interesting because normally we actually say mamzer varayam or mamzer suffix. So maybe halachically they can, but at least rabbinically, whatever, we'll see about that, they're not. But here's an even bigger surprise. A suffix mamzer can marry a mamzer. Because you don't say a suffix mamzer can't marry anybody. Can't marry Yisrael, can't marry mamzer, they'd be totally stuck. Okay, so actually this works out as a kula. The fact that we're assuming them, considering them suffix mamzerim, works out as a kula that allows them, meaning if we wouldn't, they'd be allowed to marry Yisrael. But the point is we're willing to apply that status and even allow them to marry mamzerim.
Instead of saying they can only just marry each other.
Well, even each other wouldn't work.
Because one
wouldn't. It's not like they're all the same category. Okay, and again, the same way mamzer can marry ger, a suffix mamzer can marry ger as well. Okay. All right, do you have a question, Yara? No?
I mean, I was just trying to figure out why a suffix mamzer would be below a vade mamzer on the.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure. I mean, I said it was a hierarchy, but I'm not sure if within any particular group it's a hierarchy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
I mean, we're not worried they might not be Jewish.
Right.
Like, I mean, the person found in the shuk, I'm wondering if.
Oh, if you don't know who your mother is, you're right. Then you might not be Jewish. That's true too.
That would explain.
That's a good truth. But then why can a mamzer marry? We'll have to see about that. That's a good point. Okay.
Maybe in a Jewish town.
I don't know. Okay, we'll see. All excellent questions. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right. Thank you. Abashol hayakar l'shtuki beduki. With the shto case, you would say no. Don't say shush. Say let's investigate. Okay, we'll have to see what that means in the Gemara. Sorry, Yosinol Bavel. Here I thought we were going to catch up today. It's all my fault. I double back. My area, the Tani Alumi Bavel, they went up from Bavel. At least the Halchuled Shishal, they went. What do you mean they went up? What do you mean? Never heard of the idea of Aliyah? Kiritanya, you shall go rise up to the place, go up to the place where God has chosen. It's the Beis Hamikdash is higher. And Eretz Yisrael is higher than all other lands. Now, so Rashi, some places seems to think that this is meant, literally and geographically, or not geographically, topographically. Clearly, it means religiously, anyway, at least as well, but presumably only. That's what it says. You go up to the place. You're in Israel, and you go up to the Beis Hamikdash. There's a fight in your cities, in your gates, and so you're in Eretz Yisrael in your city, and you go up to the Beis Hamikdash. Ella Eretz Yisrael gavor mikol haaretz minaham. Where do you know that Eretz Yisrael is higher than the other lands? Tichsi l'chein hinei yamim ba'im Hashem lo yomar od Chai Hashem asher hela bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. You will not say praise God that by the life of God who brought bnei Yisrael up from the land of Egypt. Chai Hashem by the life of God asher hela asher hevia bnei Yisrael me'eretz Tzafon from the land or Tzfona from the northern lands and mikol haaretzot and from all the lands asher he dachtim sham that he sort of dispersed them there. So you see, it says Asher He'elah, he is going to bring them up from all the lands to Israel. So you see that Israel is higher than all the lands. Okay, so that's why it says Alu. Now, my area detani Alu mi Bavel. Fine, that's why it says Alu. But why does it say Alu mi Bavel? Nisni Alu le Eretz Yisrael. Right? Why mention that they came from Bavel? We say Yeyalei Rabbi Linzer. I'm a Rabbi Linzer. Lo Allah Ezra mi Bavel akisolet nikiya. The Allah. Now, this is based on in the beginning of the book of Ezra, which we're going to quote soon. It's going to say, is explicitly talk about that here are all the people that went with Ezra, and it identifies them as different families, that the Kohanim families, the Levi families, and the Netinim families. It identifies who the families. So all this focus on the Yuchsin is very explicit in the beginning of the book of Ezra of the people who came with him. So that's what it means, Asara Yuchsin, right? That means that Ezra, the people that Ezra came up with, he knew their identity, he knew their categories. These were the 10 different categories of Jews that came up with him. But now what the Gemara is doing is that's the theme in the beginning of Sefer Ezra. But what the Gemara here is saying is that they came up from Bavel, which means he was helping out Bavel in the process. Because he saw that in Bavel, you had all of these people of different genealogies. Some were Yisrael, some were Mamzer, some were this, some were that. And nobody was paying attention to who was who. And it was just going to get worse and worse and worse. So he did a tova, and he took all the people, and maybe he did a necessary tova, because if you read also the book, anybody who was of status and of wealth didn't make aliyah with Ezra. They stayed where they were in Bavel. So he took all of the sort of lower castes, or all of the people that were like less, had less status in society. And as well, there were some Kohanim, but a lot of the Kohanim were Chalolim also. Anyway, and those are the ones that were willing to go with him. And in the process, he cleaned Bavel out from all of these problematic statuses. Okay, so he made Bavel this like sifted flour. Now Bavel only had the Jews that did not, presumably it's according with the Israeli, but presumably it didn't have the people low on the list. He took those all out with him. So that's what it says, that they were Lumi Bavel, because he was sort of taking them out of Bavel, not just bringing them to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, it's very interesting, right? In terms of the very humble beginnings, as it were, and also what it means when you're settled and you're comfortable in a land, and just look at right now, the questions about Baruch Hashem, the Orthodox community, we do, we're not bad in terms of the Aliyah, but once you're really doing well and prospering and comfortable, it's not always easy to leave and to make Aliyah. So the Gemara says like this. So it was the ones of the lesser status that were willing to follow him. So let's just finish that. The Gemara says like this. Itmar was taught. Abai Amar Alume Alehem. No. Ezra didn't force them to come out. They chose to go out, but as we're going to see, it's not. But as we're going to see, it means is that Ezra identified them as, you're the Chalolim, you're the Nesinim, you're the Mamzerim. Once their status was identified, they had very little choice but to, we better go up with Ezra, because now we're going to be rejected in this society. So Ezra identified them, and then they chose on their own to go up. The Rava Amar Ha'alum Tana. No. He schlepped them out against their will. They immediately give you to Rabbi Eliezer. They debate what Rabbi Eliezer said. I'm Rabbi Eliezer. I choose Rabbi Eliezer. Lo Allah Ezra mi Bavel acha asakisol nikiya ve'Allah. Abai lays to Rabbi Eliezer. Abai doesn't hold of Rabbi Eliezer because Ezra didn't clean it out. Ezra just identified them, and then they acted on their own. He was just trying to help Bavel by identifying everybody's status. Rabbi Isai to Rabbi Eliezer. No, Rabbi says no. Ezra's goal was to take him out, and therefore he forced him out. Ibai saying, if you want to say no, everybody agrees Ezra's agenda was to take them out. The question was, how did he manage to achieve that agenda? That Ezra he didn't have to do everything. He just identified them, categorized them in Bavel, and then they decided on their own that it was in their best interest to leave. So Ezra took them out of Bavel by starting this process, but not by forcing them out. No, he forced them out. I know exactly how he forced them, but literally he forced them out. Okay, let's just read. I'm just going to read a few more lines, get to the two dots. That they went up on their own. All the lands are like dough. Dough is not clean flour. Dough has other stuff in it. It's got eggs, it's got water, it's got whatever. So dough is in contrast to solet nikiyah, the sifted flour. So if a land is Isa, Eretz Yisrael, it means Eretz Yisrael is seen as more refined, you can more identify people's status and yuchsin in Eretz Yisrael. In other lands, it's not always known who is who. Eretz Yisrael, Isa leBavel, but compared to Bavel, Eretz Yisrael is the dough, because Bavel has been totally cleaned in terms of, not people of the more questionable status. Elamandam, so that makes sense. Elamanda Amar Halum. But now, why does it make sense? Everybody agrees that this is true, that these people came with Ezra. So the question, though, is, as long as you know who is who, you're also a solet nikiyah, right? As long as you know exactly who's in which category, the idea of Isa is it's confused. It's all mixed together. So the question is, after Ezra took these people with him to Eretz Yisrael, did their identity and category remain clear and well known? And if that's true, then Eretz Yisrael is also Isa Solet Nikiyah, because there's no mixing; everybody is known. So if you say that it is Alu, then you understand why Eretz Yisrael is also a little mixed, because then they went up on their own. Ezra didn't control the whole process. So if they went up on their own, maybe they didn't want to keep their identity so well known. Ezra identified them in Eretz Yisrael, Bavel, troublemaker. He went to Bavel, he went to Eretz Yisrael, and then they came in a way in which it was not so clear what their identity was. And we can understand why Eretz Yisrael is also not Solet Nikiyah. Elamandam or Elum, but if he was the one that controlled the whole process, so not only did he identify them in Bavel, but he kept their identity and their category known in Eretz Yisrael. So Mida Yadinahu, everybody knew who they were. So why isn't Eretz Yisrael also Solat Nikiyah? So the Gemara says no. He the Yadi Lahudara. That generation everybody knew. L'Dara Achrina Lo Yadi. But later generations it starts getting confused again. Okay, so Bavel, where the people were removed from, I mean, talk about ethnic cleansing or something, like it's so difficult, talking about that. But where the people were removed from, that remained this clean flower. And Eretz Yisrael, even though the categories were known at the time, there's still a lot of these other people there, so things get a little mixed up. And we'll just end this. So this is from Ezra. We went to this river. We camped there for 3 days. The Avina Ba'am, and I investigated the people of Bakonim, B'nei Levi, Lo Matzati Sham, and there was nobody there from B'nei Levi. It doesn't really mean nobody because it says Levi was there, but it meant as that Levim were not able to serve in the Beit HaMikdash. I didn't find anybody who was able. So that's good if it says that they were Alu, because that means he didn't really pay attention to who was there until they were traveling. Right? You understand? It says as they were traveling, they encamped and he investigated who he had with him. Okay, that's if they went up on their own. But Elalamandam or Halum, but if he was controlling the whole process and identifying them and bringing them out with him, so Hamiz is a Zahiri. So it's clear they know who is who. What does it mean now? He paid attention. Someone says no. He the easier b'psulim. He identified who the psulim were. But Bekemlo Izdayer, what he said here is that he saw that there were Levim and Kohanim that couldn't serve in the Beis HaMikdash. He hadn't paid attention to that before, right? This list isn't about who can serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So this pasuk, which is during their travels, he stopped and he realized that there were Kohanim and Levim who couldn't serve in the Beis HaMikdash. That was
because they took.
We'll see. We'll get to that tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get to that tomorrow. Okay, but that was a new thing. But the categories were well known. Okay, so we've got this historical reality about identifying who is who and bringing them with him to Eretz Yisrael. And tomorrow we will continue to see about look at both Sukkim and Ezra and the who can marry her.